Good evening, dear one. You've drifted your way to the sleepy dreamer, a little corner of the night where science moves slowly and thoughts learn how to rest. Before we wander anywhere at all, let yourself arrive. Right here. Notice the way your body meets the bed, the way your weight sinks just a little more with each breath. You do not need to change anything. You do not need to fix anything. You only need to feel. Feel the pillow holding the back of your head. Feel the gentle curve of your neck settling into its softness. Feel the slow pull of gravity, inviting your shoulders to loosen and fall. Let your jaw soften. Let your tongue rest. Let your hands lie however they wish, heavy, quiet, at ease. The room around you does not need to be perfectly silent. It only needs to be soft enough that your mind can lean away from the day. Perhaps there is a faint hum somewhere, a distant car, a refrigerator, a soft fan turning the air. Let those sounds be part of the blanket of night. Not interruptions, just threads in the background. If your eyes are open, you might see the dim suggestion of shapes. Shadows on the wall, a line of light at the edge of a curtain, the gentle outline of furniture softened by darkness. If your eyes are closed, you might see nothing at all, or you might see a quiet graininess, tiny movements of color and shade, a slow, gentle swirl behind your eyelids. Either way is fine. Either way is enough. Take a slow breath in through your nose. Let the air be cool or warm. Whatever it already is, feel it, filling space that was empty a moment ago. Then let it slip out again, easily, without effort, like water running down a smooth stone. As you breathe, notice something simple. You are lying still, yet an entire universe of sensation is arriving at you, even now. The gentle pressure of the pillow, the texture of the blanket against your skin, the temperature of the air along your cheeks, the faint sound of the room breathing around you. All of it is coming in. All of it is being received. But the strange thing is this: none of it truly exists inside your skull, inside your head. There is no pillow, no blanket, no room. Inside your skull, there is darkness, soft tissue, warm fluid, billions of tiny cells, quietly alive. And somewhere within that darkness, the world you think you know is being woven together, moment by moment. Without you needing to ask, you can rest in that thought. Like resting in the hollow of a familiar tree. There is an organ, folded and protected inside bone, that is making sense out of everything you feel. That organ is your brain. It weighs about as much as a small melon. It is soft, delicate, complicated. It does not see light directly. It does not hear sound directly. It never touches the outside world. What it knows are signals, tiny electrical pulses, brief chemical messages carried from your eyes, your ears, your skin, your nose, your tongue. Those signals arrive like patterns of tapping on a closed door, like coded knocks, like faint vibrations in a web. From those vibrations, your brain paints everything: the room, the night, the feel of your own breath, the story of your day, the sense of being someone here, right now, all from inside the dark. Let that sink in gently, not as a puzzle to solve, but as a kind of quiet miracle. You are not directly touching reality. You are touching signals, and your brain is turning them into a world. The dim glow on the wall, if your eyes are open, is not light inside your head. Light has traveled from some source, a street lamp, a distant window, a faint electronic display in the form of tiny electromagnetic waves. Those waves hit your retina, the thin sheet of cells at the back of your eye. Their special cells respond to them. They do not know lamp or wall or room. They know intensity. They know frequency. They know more and less, brighter and dimmer. They turn that information into little pulses, tiny bursts of electricity that travel along nerves toward the brain. Your brain receives those pulses. They are just patterns, little rhythms of on and off. From that rhythm, it creates shape, color, depth, the sense of a wall, the sense of distance, the sense of being somewhere safe. All of that from signals in the same way. What you call sound is simply movement in the air. A car passing, a fan turning, a floorboard gently shifting. Each of these jostles the air around it, sending tiny pressure waves outward. Those waves meet your ear. They cause your eardrum to vibrate and tiny bones to move deep inside. Cells in the inner ear respond, sending their own pulses to the brain. Again, only patterns, no music yet, no voice, no hum, only timed changes in activity, like raindrops hitting an invisible surface, and your brain, without effort, turns those patterns into sound, into the murmur of the room, into the soft rustle of fabric, into the quiet of the night. Even the feeling of the blanket, the pressure of the bed, arrive as signals. Your skin is full of receptors. Some respond to pressure, some to temperature, some to stretch. They send information upward through tiny wires of nerve in a steady, gentle stream. Your brain gathers that stream and presents it to you as a single experience. I am lying here. I am supported. I am held. You do not see nerve impulses. You do not feel synapses opening and closing. You feel softness. You feel warmth. You feel rest. Take another slow breath, and with your exhale, let your awareness rest in that softness. Somewhere inside your skull, billions of cells are exchanging signals, and all you need to do is lie here and drift. It is strange and gentle and beautiful that we live inside this translated world, that what feels so immediate, the pressure of the pillow, the taste in your mouth, the whisper of air through your nose, is actually the brain's careful rendering of invisible, simple signals. The brain receives no bright colors, no rich sounds, no textures, only electrical impulses. And yet, here you are, feeling the thickness of the blanket, hearing the subtle quiet, seeing or sensing the shadows around you. A tiny, complicated organ turns quiet pulses into a whole universe. You can imagine it now, gently, as a folded landscape nestled inside your skull. Its surface is rippled, full of hills and valleys of tissue. Those folds help pack more surface area into a small space. On that surface, armies of tiny cells wait, ready to carry messages along their slender branches. They are not bright to the eye if you were to see them. They are pale, delicate, almost like soft coral, but in your imagination you might see them as glowing. Each time a signal arrives, a little spark passes from one cell to another. Not a harsh spark, not a crackle, more like a tiny firefly pulse, here and there, flickering in patterns from outside. It might look like a city scene at night from far above. lights blinking in clusters, turning off, turning on. You are that city. You are that pattern. While you lie here, feeling your breath, those lights are moving. They move when you remember something. They move when you feel calm. They move when you notice the weight of your body. And when your awareness softens, the astonishing thing is that you do not have to manage them. You do not sit here and say, "Now I will fire this neuron. Now that one," you simply decide, "I will rest," and the city rearranges itself quietly to make that possible. You can trust it. It has been doing this since before you were born, even in the womb. Your brain was already receiving signals, the sway of your parent's body, muffled sounds through fluid, changes in light through layers of tissue. With every movement, it began to organize itself, to learn patterns, to prepare for the world now. Years later, it still does this, only now, as you lie here in the dark, you can watch it from the inside. Or rather, you can notice its effects. As you pay attention to your breathing, the swirl of other thoughts becomes softer, less insistent. Notice how, when you feel the pillow under your head, the worries of today slide a little farther away, out toward the edges of awareness. This, too, is the brain at work, choosing, sifting, settling. You cannot always choose what arrives. You can choose where you linger. For now, linger in the simplest sensations, the rise of your chest, the fall, the gentle expansion in your ribs, the pause before the breath turns around. If a thought about today appears, notice it and let it float away like a small leaf moving down a slow river. You do not have to chase it. You do not have to push it away. Just let the current of your attention carry it a little farther off while you return to the softness of your body. Feel your feet wherever they are, warm or cool, heavy or light. Feel your legs. Notice where they touch. Notice where they do not. Feel the fabric against your skin. A faint brush of texture, barely there, but real enough that your brain can use it to continue painting this moment. Then feel your hands again, resting, open, curled, whatever they choose. All of these sensations, from your toes to your fingertips, are little messages moving inward, toward that quiet folded organ in your head. The brain weaves them together into a single feeling. I am here. I am whole. I am lying in the dark, and I am safe enough to soften. And as that feeling grows, your awareness shifts very gently. From the outside world to the inner one, from the room to the breath, from the day to the moment, from the noise of reality to the stillness where it is made. There is something beautiful in this turning inward. The same brain that spent all day interpreting emails, voices, faces, streets, screens, is now allowed to rest, to slow down, to process less, to simply feel. You do not need to understand every pathway. You do not need the names of every region or the labels of every fold. It is enough to know that there is a place inside you where silence becomes experience, where plain signals become rich worlds, where the soft touch of a blanket becomes comfort, and the faint hum of a fan becomes calm, and the dimness around you becomes a shelter for thought to grow quieter. Take one more slow breath in, and as you breathe out, imagine that exhale sinking downward, into the dark space behind your eyes, into the quiet city of light you carry in your skull. the place where every sound, every color, every memory, every emotion has passed through. On its way to becoming your life, you are lying at the edge of that place now, close enough to feel its hush, and maybe, in this soft moment between waking and sleep, you can sense that the story of your mind begins not in the bright noise of the world, but in the still spaces where sensation turns into experience, like a tiny spark glowing to life in the gentle dark. And from that tiny spark, glowing quietly in the dark, something wider begins to appear in your awareness, as if the light has softened and spread, revealing more of the inner landscape it comes from. You do not move, yet it feels as though a curtain has drifted aside. The darkness behind your eyes is no longer empty. It is full of delicate, hidden pathways. You can imagine them now, if you like, not as strict anatomy, not as labels and diagrams, but as a soft forest of living branches, all of it resting quietly inside your skull. Each branch is a neuron. Each neuron is a tiny cell. Each cell has a body and fine arms that reach, and smaller fingers that stretch even farther. You might see them as pale trees, rooted in darkness, their branches weaving together, their tips almost touching. Where those tips come very close, messages can pass. The space between them is small, smaller than you can imagine. Yet that small gap is where your thoughts cross. There are many of these trees, many, tens of billions. Enough that if you tried to picture each one, you would be picturing them long past sunrise. You do not need to count them. You only need to feel what it means that so many small lives are working together right now. In the quiet of your resting body, take a slow breath in, and as you exhale, imagine that breath drifting through this forest, a gentle wind moving between the branches, barely bending them, just letting them know you are here. Each neuron can connect with thousands of others. At those tiny contact points, called synapses, chemical messengers move. An electrical signal arrives at the end of a branch. Their tiny packets open, releasing molecules into the narrow gap. On the other side, another branch listens. If enough of those molecules land, it responds with its own spark. The signal has crossed. A thought has moved. This happens not once, not twice, but in waves that spread through the forest, like the shimmer of wind through tall grass, like distant lightning behind clouds. You might imagine the whole forest glowing now, not brightly, not in a way that disturbs, but in soft pulses. Here and there, a leaf lighting, a branch flickering, then resting again. When you remember something simple, the color of your favorite cup, the sound of a friend's voice, a particular pattern of branches lights up. They have done this before. They know the shape. The spark flows easily along paths that have been used often, like water finding the same grooves in stone. When you learn something new, a new path is traced through the trees. Branches strengthen their connections. Synapses become more likely to pass their whispers. With each repetition, the path becomes clearer. The forest knows the way. All of this is happening now, even as you rest, even as your thoughts slow. Neurons never sleep in the way you do. Some become less active, some grow quieter. But the forest as a whole always has a hum, a background murmur. Your heart must keep beating. Your lungs must keep moving. Your temperature must stay in balance. The brain's whispering networks take care of these things so that you can let go of them. You can feel your chest rise. You can feel it fall. But you do not have to command each breath. Somewhere deep inside, a cluster of neurons is keeping time like a gentle drummer hidden behind the trees, sending signals to the muscles between your ribs, to the diaphragm under your lungs, so that air continues to move in and out. While you drift, another network keeps watch over your balance of salt and water. Your heart's rhythm, your body temperature, it listens to signals from your blood, from your organs, and adjusts quietly, like a caretaker tending small fires, adding a little fuel here, opening a vent there, never waking you to ask permission. Your thinking mind may rest. These networks do not. Take a moment to feel how safe that is, how held you are by processes you do not need to manage. You can let your attention float above this forest now, as if rising just high enough to see its vastness everywhere you look. Branches, connections, soft glows, coming and going. Some regions are calmer, some a bit more active. This changes with what you feel, with what you remember, with where you place your attention. When you focus on your breathing, certain paths light up. When you imagine this forest, others respond. The brain does not have a single center for you. Instead, many networks cooperate, like small villages sharing messages along winding roads. One network helps you notice sounds. Another helps you interpret them. Another helps you feel what they mean. One network helps you move your hand. Another helps you decide to move it. Another keeps track of where it is in space. They speak to one another in simple words, but in intricate patterns. No single neuron knows the whole story, yet together they form the story of your life. This is why the brain is often compared to a network, not a single road, but a map of many roads, intertwined, crossing, looping back. Signals do not simply travel straight from here to there. They swirl through loops, they echo through layers. They meet other signals and reshape themselves. Like murmurs in a crowd, they blend and separate, growing stronger or softer, depending on how many join in. You may have felt this when a small thought turned into a bigger one, a single worry. If repeated and fed, can seem loud. Pathways that support it become more active, more likely to fire together. In the same way, a single comforting thought, if repeated with kindness, can grow stronger too. This is not about blame. It is about understanding. Neurons that fire together become more likely to fire together again. This is one of the brain's quiet rules. You can use that rule gently now, by choosing what you return to. If, in this moment, you return again and again to the feeling of your breath, to the weight of your body resting, to the image of this forest glowing softly, those pathways, little by little, calm becomes easier to find next time. Because the forest remembers how to light up in that shape. Feel your chest again, the rise, the fall. Notice how many parts of your brain must coordinate simply to make that possible. Sensory networks report on your body. Motor networks control the muscles. Deep regions regulate the rhythm. Higher networks decide that it feels good to notice this. And yet, to you, it is just breath, simple, natural, soft. You can think of your outer awareness, the part that says, I, as a small boat floating on top of a deep, busy ocean. Below the surface, Currents move. Waves meet. Streams of activity swirl above. You feel only the slow rocking of the boat. Tonight, you are letting that boat rock more gently as the deeper currents begin to slow. Your focus has shifted inward. You are no longer scanning the horizon for tasks, conversations, messages, demands. You are noticing what was always there beneath it, the whispering networks, the forest of neurons, the quiet, endless work of keeping you alive and allowing you to feel. Imagine moving through this inner forest now. As a small wandering glow, like a firefly, you drift between the branches. You see synapses like tiny doorways, each one opening and closing as messages pass. A cluster of neurons lights up when you recall a word there. Another cluster glows when you picture someone's face. Farther along, you see a thicker bundle of pathways. Like a bright river through the trees, this might be a major highway where many signals travel together, carrying sight or sound or movement. You float above them, watching, not interfering. You realize that even simple actions, lifting a cup, turning your head, reading a line, require many of these pathways to work in concert. The fact that you can lie here now and choose to be still is itself the result of a quiet agreement between countless cells. Take another breath in, a little slower, and as you exhale, imagine that firefly settling on a gentle branch. The lights around you begin to dim, not all at once, not suddenly, but in waves. First, the regions that kept track of the outer world grow quieter. Whatever moved outside your window, whatever sound came through the wall, can now fade into the background. Then, the regions that juggle decisions begin to rest. No more choosing, no more planning, no more rehearsing tomorrow. Those patterns release their hold, like hands letting go of a rope, letting it lie slack on the ground. What remains is simpler networks that keep your body safe, steady, and at ease. Networks that softly watch your inner state, ready to adjust if you turn, or if your breath changes, or if something needs a little care. But even they can become more efficient, more gentle. As sleep approaches, the forest whispers less. It hums. More signals become slower, wider, more synchronized. You are not fully in that state yet. You are drifting toward it. And as you drift, you can feel a kind of companionship from this inner landscape. The brain is not a cold machine. It is living tissue. It responds to experience. It reshapes itself on your behalf. It has learned your joys, your fears, your habits. It has carried your memories, held your skills, absorbed your days. Now it is beginning the gentle work of sorting, tidying, and resting, so that tomorrow it can meet the world again. But for now, it is enough that the networks are growing quieter. The glowing landscape inside your skull is dimming, not into darkness, but into a soft, steady pulse, like distant lights at the edge of a sleeping town. You do not need to see the whole map. You do not need to know which path carries which thought. It is enough to trust that the forest knows how to move from activity into rest. You can follow it, not by walking, not by doing, but by breathing, by feeling the weight of your body, by letting your mind grow softer around the edges. Already, your thoughts may feel less sharp. Images may come and go without as much detail. That is the whispering network changing its tone, from bright chatter to quiet murmur. Let that murmur be your lullaby, and as you exhale once more, imagine the forest of your brain glowing with faint, scattered lights, each spark a tiny piece of your story, fading into a gentle rhythmic shimmer, like a horizon of neurons settling into a quiet pulse. And from that quiet pulse, something softer begins to open, as if the dim glow of those inner branches is touching the edges of a wider landscape. The forest of your neurons doesn't sit in silence by itself. It listens, it gathers, it receives, and in this gentle moment you can sense how the world around you, even the calm dark of your room, is whispering inward, sending threads of sensation toward the brain like rivers flowing into a vast, waiting sea. You do not need to move to feel it. The blanket resting over you has a temperature. The air has a weight. The night has a quiet tone. Everything you experience is becoming part of the story that your brain is weaving right now. Stitch by small stitch, so softly you barely notice the work. You can begin with touch, the oldest of the senses. Feel the way your body settles into the mattress, fitting into its shape as naturally as a pebble resting in a riverbed. The pressure on your shoulder, your hip, your leg, these sensations enter your skin, traveling through tiny receptors that lie just beneath the surface. Some sense warmth, some sense pressure, some sense the faint brushing of fabric. These signals travel along nerves toward your spinal cord, then rise into the brain, where they are examined with a kind of calm attention. And yet, the brain doesn't simply report the pressure, it interprets it. It tells you whether the pressure feels comforting or neutral, or in need of shifting. It paints the sensation with meaning. The blanket might feel warm. The pillow might feel soft. The bed beneath you might feel steady, grounding you. These sensations are not merely detected. They are translated by your brain into comfort, safety, and ease. Now you may notice the air, cooler than the warmth beneath the blanket, moving slowly across your face as you breathe. Air currents brush tiny hairs in your nose. Their movement is translated into the feeling of breath. You could imagine these currents as thin threads of silk, drifting inward with each inhale, out with each exhale. Your brain does not feel the air directly. It receives signals, chemical and electrical, and shapes them into the sensation of coolness, into the rhythm of breathing, into the quiet presence of night. Sounds move differently, not through touch, not through chemical traces, but through vibrations in the air. Perhaps there is a distant sound in your room, something soft, a fan, a faint hum, the settling of a wall, a gentle movement of fabric. Even silence has texture. Silence is not empty. It carries the softest sounds like a whisper behind the walls of the world. When a sound occurs, air vibrates. The vibration reaches your eardrum, nudges tiny bones, moves fluid deep within your inner ear. Their tiny hair cells sway. They convert that movement into electrical signals, not sound, just signals. Your brain receives them, interprets them, and gently tells you what they are. A hum, a breath, a distant softness. What you hear is not what your ear receives. It is what your brain creates. Just like vision, just like touch. Now, if you bring your attention inward, you may notice the faint glow behind your closed eyes. Light doesn't enter anymore. Yet the brain continues to offer small patterns, shapes, colors, swirls, tiny remnants of the day, or small sparks of imagination. Earlier, when your eyes were open, light came to you as electromagnetic waves, streams of energy moving through space. But the brain receives no light at all, no color, no brightness. Only electrical impulses traveling from the retina along the optic nerve, and from those impulses, your brain paints the world, the colors you remember, the shapes you recognize, the faces you treasure. All are created inside you. Visible light is only a narrow sliver of the electromagnetic spectrum, a tiny window. Yet from that narrow slice, the brain builds landscapes, oceans, skies, memories, loved ones. You see only a little, yet you experience so much. And smell is even more delicate. With each inhale, molecules drift into your nose, tiny, floating pieces of the world. When they meet special receptors, signals rise into the brain. But the brain does not receive lavender, or dust, or rain. It receives patterns, simple, nameless patterns, and matches them with memory. The warmth of summer air, the scent of fresh sheets, a place you knew long ago, a moment that once made you smile. Taste, too, is a collaboration. The tongue senses bitterness, sweetness, saltiness, sourness, umami. But flavors, true flavors, come from the union of taste and smell. Woven together like threads of silk, the brain receives pieces and assembles them into a whole. You can think of each sense as a gentle stream flowing toward the mind. Touch is a warm stream. Sound is a rippling one. Sight is a shimmering one. Smell is a drifting one. Taste is a subtle, blending one. They all merge in the same place, a quiet sea of neurons eager to create meaning. Imagine the streams meeting now, their waters mingling, forming a calm lake at the center of your mind. The surface is smooth, reflecting the faint shimmer of your awareness. This lake is your perception, the world as the brain creates it. Moment by moment, breath by breath, it does not give you an exact copy of reality. It gives you something more gentle, a useful, comforting version, rich enough to navigate, soft enough to hold. Even now, as you lie here, your senses are still feeding the lake, the warmth around your body, the quiet hum in the room, the light pressure of your head on the pillow, and your brain continues to blend these sensations, not harshly, not analytically, but like a painter mixing colors in slow, thoughtful strokes. In this blending, something beautiful happens. The outside world becomes part of your inner world. The softness you feel becomes your softness. The quiet you hear becomes your quiet. The darkness around you becomes the darkness within your restful mind. You can sense how perception grows quieter as you prepare to sleep. The streams of sensation narrow. The lake becomes smoother. The ripples fade. Your brain needs less information now. It does not need sharp edges, bright details, or rapid interpretation. It prefers gentleness. It prefers dimness. It prefers slow waves. This is how the senses step back as sleep approaches, like attendants leaving a room softly, one by one, closing the door carefully behind them. Touch remains, but becomes softer. Sound remains, but becomes distant, as if wrapped in warm cloth. Sight fades into subtle shapes. Smell rests. Taste becomes quiet without food. And what is left is the beginning of an inward world, the world that the brain paints when the senses grow still. This inner world is not made of external light or sound. It is made of memory, emotion, imagination, and the deep patterns that lie beneath conscious thought. You may begin to feel those inner patterns now, like small currents beneath the smooth lake of perception. A thought drifts across the water, then fades. A small image appears, then dissolves. A feeling rises gently, like a bubble reaching the surface, then slips away. Nothing needs to be held. Nothing needs to be understood. No sense of urgency remains. The outside world is quiet. The inside world is softening. Your brain is weaving the world in fewer strokes now. The tapestry is dimming, not fading away, but becoming subtle, like a painting lit only by moonlight. Your senses have delivered their messages. Your neurons have processed them. Your mind has understood enough for today. Now, you are drifting toward the deeper layers, where the senses loosen their grasp and the inner self begins to glow more clearly. And as you exhale, you might imagine all the sensory streams around you narrowing, slowing, turning into a mist that hovers gently over the lake of your awareness, dissolving into quiet colors that settle into a soft haze. And from that soft haze, something begins to take shape, not sharply, not suddenly, but like a gentle glow forming behind a curtain of mist. The streams of sensation quiet, yet there remains a presence, a subtle awareness that is not the outside world and not quite the thoughts themselves. It rises slowly, like warmth from a hidden ember. It is the sense of you emerging from silence. You are still resting, still held by the softness beneath your body, yet you can feel this inner presence more clearly now. It has no edges, no fixed outline. It moves the way morning fog moves across a still lake, shifting and settling with delicate intention. The brain creates this sense of self quietly, not in one place, not in one moment, but across a constellation of networks, lighting here, fading there, always in motion, always whispering the same message: you are here. You might imagine it as a lantern glowing in a vast, dim space. Its light is gentle, warm, and constant. It illuminates memories, feelings, thoughts, and choices, but it is not any one of them. It is the space that holds them inside your brain. Networks, like the default mode network, begin to hum softly when you are at rest, tracing the contours of your inner world. These networks weave your experiences together into a quiet narrative, not a story you must repeat or even know, but a sense of continuity that lets you feel like the same person across the changes of your life. Picture these networks as a ring of small lanterns hanging from delicate branches. Each lantern holds a memory, a moment, a familiar feeling. They flicker gently, sometimes bright, sometimes dim, always shaping the atmosphere around them. Some lanterns hold old memories, warm ones, faded ones, ones touched by time. Some hold recent sparks, new impressions, settling gently into place. Some hold simple emotions, comfort, longing, calm, hope. Others hold images without clear meaning, like petals floating on water together. They create the quiet architecture of the self. The narrator does not explain this with analysis. Instead, we drift closer to the warmth, feeling it rather than studying it. You may notice how the self feels softer in the quiet of night. As the senses loosen, the story inside you becomes clearer, not louder, just more gently defined. The you inside is not the list of your habits, not the decisions of your day, not the worries that sometimes flicker through your mind. Those are small waves, temporary surfaces. Beneath them, there is a deeper current, a calm awareness that has carried you through every moment you have ever lived. This awareness doesn't need to be strong. It doesn't need to be focused. Tonight, it can drift. It can soften. It can lean into the dark without fear. Think of yourself as a melody, not a loud one, not one played on bright instruments, but a soft tune played under the breath, where each note blends with the next dot. The brain creates this melody from the many moments of your life. Every laugh, every quiet hour, every ache that taught you something, every small joy that stayed with you. None of these moments stand alone. They drift together, part of the glow that forms your inner world. Now imagine the self as a kind of echo. When an experience touches you, it leaves a small sound behind, a resonance. Those resonances linger, overlapping, creating the tone of who you are. Some echoes soften quickly, some linger for years, but none define you by themselves. You are the whole soundscape, the gentle harmony of countless lived notes. And as you rest here, you can sense how your brain is tending to this inner world. It organizes your thoughts without effort. It arranges fragments of memory. It restores emotional balance. It keeps your selfhood glowing even when you are not thinking about it. The self is not rigid. It is not a structure built from stone. It is more like a cloud, soft-edged, always shifting, always held together by the gentle pull of meaning. Even now, you might sense small swirls of thought rising and dissolving, a memory of something quiet, a feeling that touches your chest, a hint of tomorrow, a wave of calm. These are not distractions. They are part of the landscape, appearing and fading without needing to be held. The self watches them like someone sitting by a shore, observing the tide come in, go out, return again. The science behind this is simple and beautiful. The brain creates your identity by connecting patterns of activity, weaving them into a narrative that makes sense of your inner and outer worlds. But the feeling of it, the feeling is much more tender. You are the warmth beneath your ribs. You are the gentle weight of your breath. You are the awareness drifting across your inner sky. You are the quiet glow that remains when everything else grows dim as the night deepens. Your sense of self becomes smoother, less burdened by the sharp lines of the day. The lanterns dim slightly, their light still warm, still steady, but softened by the presence of rest. This softening is natural. It is the brain preparing to release you into deeper states of peace, where the self becomes even lighter, even more fluid, ready to join the slow currents of dream and sleep. You may feel that shift now, a kind of gentle sinking inward, not downward, but inward, toward the quiet center of your awareness. Here, the self is not a label. It is not a role. It is not something you must define. It is a breath, a glow, a murmur, a presence. It is the soft echo of your existence, rising from silence and returning to silence with each slow inhale and exhale. You are here. You are safe. You are drifting in the warmth of your own mind, and perhaps somewhere in that quiet glow, the self is simply the brain's way of whispering, again and again, in the softest possible voice, you belong in this gentle night, and you are enough. And from that warm whisper of belonging, the mind shifts almost imperceptibly. as if a gentle breeze has stirred the leaves of your inner world. The glow of the self, that soft lantern light, does not vanish. It simply becomes part of a broader landscape, widening like a field at dusk. You can sense it without grasping it, feel it without defining it. And in this widening quiet, the narrator begins to reveal something tender and reassuring, that the brain is always changing, always adapting, always moving through its own quiet seasons. The transition feels like stepping from a still pond into a meadow touched by slow-moving air. Nothing abrupt, nothing sharp, just a widening, a soft unfolding, the way early morning light stretches across cool grass. The brain you carry, this soft, living web of networks and glow, is not fixed. It is not a rigid structure carved into permanence. It is more like a forest, a living, breathing ecosystem that grows, prunes, reshapes itself with every breath, every thought, every moment of rest. Even now, as you lie here, another season is unfolding quietly inside you. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire, reroute, and renew, is not a loud or forceful process. It is subtle, patient, and deeply forgiving. It works the way trees grow new leaves in spring, how old branches fall away when no longer needed, how pathways soften like earth after gentle rain. Picture your brain as a forest at twilight. Some branches reach outward, seeking new light, new understanding. Others withdraw, falling softly to the forest floor, making room for what comes next in this forest. Neurons form new connections when you learn, when you reflect, when you rest. Old patterns that no longer serve you begin to fade. Fresh roots take hold. New leaves unfold. All of it happens quietly. All of it happens without you needing to try. You might imagine pathways in your brain like thin trails in a meadow. Each time you think a familiar thought, the grass on that trail bends again. Each time you choose something new, a new action, a new perspective, a new breath, another trail begins to appear, faint at first, then clearer with repetition. Your brain remembers these trails. It shapes them. It tends to them like a patient gardener, and it allows the old, unused paths to fade back into soft earth. This process is slow, gentle, and deeply natural. Nothing about your mind is frozen. Nothing about your identity is fixed in stone. You are changing even now in the quiet of this room. In the hush of this moment, the brain strengthens pathways you use often, a thought pattern, a skill, a memory, and it softens pathways that have grown less important, letting them fall away gently like leaves drifting down in late autumn. The rhythm of these inner seasons mirrors the world around you. Spring brings growth, new ideas forming, new understandings taking root. Summer brings warmth, the strengthening of habits, the deepening of familiar patterns. Autumn brings release, the letting go of what no longer needs to stay, the gentle falling of old memories or habits that no longer serve you. Winter brings rest, quiet integration, deep settling, time for healing and renewal. Your brain moves through these seasons endlessly, not in neat order, but in overlapping waves. Sometimes several seasons coexist, one part of your mind growing, another letting go, another resting softly beneath it all. You don't have to manage this. You don't have to control it. Your brain has been doing this since the moment you were born, even as a child. Neurons bloomed at astonishing speed, thousands of new connections forming each second, like wildflowers bursting open after warm rain. Later, unused connections were gently pruned, the brain removing what was not needed so that the pathways you used most could strengthen. This cycle continues throughout life. It continues tonight. It continues now. When you learn something new, a new branch grows. When you practice something often, that branch thickens. When you let an old habit go, its branch falls quietly to the forest floor, making nutrients for new growth. Even your thoughts sculpt your brain. Repeated thoughts carve gentle grooves in the neural landscape. But new perspectives create new grooves, softly redirecting the flow of your inner river. Nothing is fixed. Nothing is too late. Nothing is beyond change. All of this brings a sense of comfort that your brain is always capable of renewal, always willing to grow again, always able to soften its old patterns and welcome new ones. And your emotions participate in this cycle too. When you experience kindness, neurons associated with warmth strengthen. When you rest, your brain clears away old metabolic traces, like wind sweeping across a quiet field. When you feel safe, the pathways of calm deepen, becoming easier to find again later. Right now, as your breath slows, the season inside you leans toward winter, the season of rest. Winter is not cold here. It is soft, deep, slow. A time when the forest floor grows still, when the branches pause their reaching, when everything waits patiently for renewal. Your brain welcomes this rest. It uses it. During sleep, neurons reorganize. Synapses strengthen or weaken. Memories settle. Emotional patterns soften. The forest rebuilds itself. Tonight, your brain prepares to enter that delicate work, not with urgency, but with peace. The branches that need to grow will grow. The ones that need to fall will fall. And the roots beneath everything, the ones that hold your sense of self, will rest in warm, nourishing soil. Even now, you might imagine a quiet snowfall covering the forest floor. Each flake lands gently, cool and soft, blanketing the earth in stillness. This is the brain's winter, a season where silence heals, where rest becomes a kind of slow magic, and as you breathe, you become part of this winter. Your thoughts slow, your emotions settle. Your inner world becomes pale and expansive, like a quiet field dusted with early snow. The seasons within you will change again one day. Spring will return, bringing ideas and moments of growth. Summer will warm your familiar patterns. Autumn will invite gentle release. But tonight, you are entering the season of rest, the most essential season of all. In this soft winter, the world asks nothing of you. Your brain asks nothing of you. There is only breath and warmth, and the quiet promise that healing is happening in ways you do not have to see. And as the inner forest settles, as the first snowfall spreads across its gentle branches, you may feel the world inside you becoming still, a stillness so soft that even the trees seem to breathe with you. And perhaps, somewhere in this quiet winter, the brain's changing seasons whisper the same tender truth, that you are allowed to rest, and you are allowed to change as gently as falling snow. And from the gentle snowfall that settles over the forest of your mind, something begins to glow beneath the white, soft quiet. It is not a bright light, not a sudden spark. It is a warmth rising from within, like small lanterns beginning to flicker under a blanket of twilight. They glow gently, one by one, forming a soft pathway through the resting trees. These lanterns are your memories, living, shifting lights that guide your inner steps even when your thoughts grow slow. You do not need to reach for them. They come forward on their own, soft, warm, uncertain in their edges. Yet full of meaning, the brain shapes memory, not as a perfect recording, but as a fluid, luminous impression, something that expands or softens each time you touch it. You might imagine each memory as a small sphere of light cupped in your hands. The light changes slightly every time you lift it, reflecting not only the past, but the person you are in this present moment. Tonight, the memories do not rush toward you. They drift, they sway. They appear the way fireflies rise above grass on a warm night. One flicker might bring you the softness of a distant afternoon. Another, the warmth of a voice you once heard. Another, the scent of a place you loved without knowing why. These memories are not perfect replicas. They are rebuildings, gentle reconstructions, woven by the brain. Each time they are recalled, science tells us this softly. Each recollection reshapes the pathways that hold it. Neurons fire in patterns, patterns shift, and the memory grows slightly new edges. But instead of thinking of this as imperfection, you might think of it as tenderness. The brain updates memory in order to keep it alive, in order to make it fit gently into the person you are becoming. Picture the lanterns glowing along the path. Some shine brighter, their warm colors vibrant and steady. These are the memories you've visited often, moments you've held close, moments that still hum softly in your chest. Others glow faintly, their light delicate and trembling like candle flames. These memories are older or quieter or simply less often touched, but they remain, resting peacefully in the dark, waiting for the soft moment you might revisit them. Still others flicker far off in the trees, dim, distant, almost dreaming. They are the fragments your mind rarely calls upon, but they form the backdrop of who you are. They shape your quiet instincts, your subtle preferences, your inner landscape. As you rest, the lanterns illuminate more than the past. They light the pathways through which your brain understands the present. A memory of gentle laughter softens your response to new moments. A memory of calm helps your breath slow tonight. A memory of safety lets your shoulders fall and your body settle deeper into the bedding. Memory is not static. It breathes with you. It adjusts to hold you. It tucks itself beside your mind like a warm blanket settling over your chest. Imagine now that you walk slowly along the lantern-lit path. The air is cool but not cold. The ground is soft beneath your feet. Each step carries you past a memory glowing gently among the trees. There is no need to touch them, no need to look closely. Just let their presence warm the space around you. One lantern carries a childhood sound, a soft rhythm of footsteps, a distant voice calling you home. Another carries the image of a quiet place you once visited, a window with soft light, a chair by a warm corner. A feeling of being held. Another lantern flickers with a memory from earlier today, a small moment, perhaps ordinary on the surface, but it glows because of how it touched you in some subtle way. The brain lights these memories gently because they help it make sense of the world. They guide your emotions. They fill in the fog between thoughts. They offer you continuity so that each moment feels connected to the story of your life. You can imagine your hippocampus, the region of the brain that helps form memories, as the keeper of these lanterns, tending to them carefully, strengthening some, letting others dim, keeping space open for new ones. Tonight, this keeper grows quieter. It prepares for sleep, for the slow shifting of memories into deeper storage, for the delicate work of clearing space for tomorrow's impressions. In deep rest, memories are sifted. Some are kept, some are allowed to fade, some settle into permanent patterns, others drift away like sparks in a dark sky. This sorting is gentle. It is not a harsh pruning. It is a soft, thoughtful reorganization that keeps the inner forest healthy and the lanterns glowing steadily. As you breathe more slowly now, you may sense that sorting beginning, a faint movement behind your thoughts, a soft arrangement of light. Some memories brighten briefly, then settle. Others blink like tiny stars, then disappear into deeper night. Your brain does this to protect you. It highlights what matters. It softens what might burden you. It weaves your past into something you can carry lightly. Even memories of difficulty can change in the night, their sharp edges smoothed, their weight shared across other networks, their emotional tones softened by sleep's quiet touch. Tonight, the forest of your mind is serene. The lanterns glow, the keeper moves gently, and you walk slowly, breathing, feeling the warmth rise around you. Soon, even these lanterns will quiet. Their light will blur. Their edges will soften. The path will fade from beneath your feet as your mind drifts deeper toward dream. But for now, for this breath, allow yourself to rest among them. These memories that shaped you, these lights that guide you, these soft echoes of everything you have lived, they belong to you, and you belong to their glow. And in this stillness, you can feel how the lanterns sway gently in the quiet air, their light flickering like small suns in the night, whispering the same peaceful truth that memories need not be perfect to be beautiful. And from the last gentle sway of those lanterns, a deeper softness begins to rise, as if the warm lights themselves are dissolving into a fine, drifting mist. The path beneath your feet grows lighter. The trees become silhouettes. The forest air thickens with quiet, like a deep breath held by the night. Nothing sharp follows you now. No edges of memory, no firm outlines of thought. Everything begins to loosen, tenderly, naturally, the way petals loosen their hold when dusk settles over a meadow. You are entering the earliest threshold of sleep, not sleep itself, but the warm corridor that leads toward it, the hypnagogic state. Here, your brain does something beautiful. It softens the boundaries between the waking world and the dreaming one. It allows imagination to seep into the edges of perception. Like watercolor spreading through still water, you may notice it in subtle ways. A flicker of color behind your eyelids, a drifting sensation as if your body is sinking or swaying, a quiet hum that has no clear source, a half-formed image that appears for a moment and then dissolves. Nothing stays. Everything floats. Your waking thoughts begin to lose their structure. They stretch, blur, open. They drift like small boats leaving the shore, guided by currents you cannot feel but somehow trust. Science tells us that during this stage, your brain transitions from alpha waves, the calm, thoughtful rhythms of wakefulness, into slower theta waves, waves that carry you into a light, dream-filled depth. Think of these waves as tides. Alpha tides are steady, rolling, gentle. Theta tides are slower, softer, carrying you inward. When the tide shifts, the shoreline of your mind changes too. You may feel yourself drifting inward on these tides now. Your body stays heavy on the bed, anchored by the weight of blankets. But your awareness glides into a lighter space, not up or down, but inward, toward a place where thoughts become clouds. As the mind shifts, images may bloom unexpectedly. A face you don't quite recognize, a fragment of a place you've never been, a shape that has no meaning but feels strangely familiar. The hypnagogic mind speaks in fragments, in symbols not yet attached to dreams, in sensations not yet woven into stories. This drifting is gentle. It is natural. Your brain has been doing this every night of your life. You can imagine your thoughts now as dandelion seeds, released into a slow-moving breeze, rising, turning, falling, catching small currents in the air. Some thoughts drift closer, touching you lightly before floating away. Some rise higher, becoming distant shapes. Some dissolve entirely before you can recognize them. And through it all, your breath remains steady. Warm air in, cool air out. A soft rhythm that keeps your body calm while your mind loosens its grip on the waking world. The sensations of your body grow distant in a peaceful way. The blanket's weight feels more like a cloud than a piece of fabric. The pillow beneath your head feels wider, softer, as if it is slowly becoming part of the air around you. Your limbs may feel heavier or lighter, as though gravity is shifting its hold. This is normal. The brain is decreasing its need to monitor movement, allowing the muscles to drift toward rest. You may sense a small jolt, a sudden twitch in a hand or foot, or a momentary feeling of falling. This too is natural. It is the brain quieting the last sparks of wakeful control. A soft exhale of your nervous system, and when it passes, you settle deeper, like a pebble sinking slowly through cool water. Your thoughts become less like sentences and more like textures, a color, a temperature, a drifting sensation. You might picture a wave of pale blue passing through your mind, or a warm sound humming gently in your inner ear. These are not dreams yet, but the preludes to dreaming, the first threads being woven in the dark. You are being carried without needing to move. You are being guided without needing to understand. Your brain is dimming the lights, closing the doors of attention, drawing the curtains of consciousness. If a thought tries to anchor itself, it loses its edges, its words becoming soft, its structure becoming haze. Nothing in this stage is meant to be held. Everything is meant to float. Your awareness becomes like a leaf on water, drifting wherever the current takes it, without urgency, without weight. The imagery around you becomes fluid and impressionistic, shapes melting into one another, colors fading softly from one hue to another, sounds blending into distant murmurs that feel more like memory than noise. You may sense a shift in the temperature of your thoughts, a warmth, a coolness, a soft, neutral glow. This is the brain moving from sensing the world to sensing itself. The separation between inner and outer grows thin. A sound in the room might blend with an imagined sound. A memory might drift into a dream seed. A feeling might rise without cause and fade again without impact. You are entering the space where the mind lets go, not by force, not by effort, but by design. The brain knows how to rest. It knows how to slow its patterns, how to release control, how to drift into the gentle currents of dreams. You are safe in this passage. You are held by your own biology, carried by rhythms older than language, more ancient than thought. As the last coherent thoughts thin out, as the lanterns of memory dim behind you, you may feel the world tilt gently, not physically, but perceptually, as your inner landscape becomes fluid. This is the moment before dreaming, the moment when consciousness loosens, when identity softens, when attention becomes a feather resting on warm air. You are floating now, supported by nothing, held by everything, and through this drifting lightness, through this early dream haze, a final soft truth rises like a whisper from the quiet shore, that letting go is not falling. It is floating into a gentler world, and from that floating gentleness, the inner world shifts again, not with a turn, not with a step, but with a kind of quiet blooming. The drifting thoughts of the hypnagogic tide thin until they resemble petals dissolving into dark water. And through that water, something begins to rise, slow, soft, luminous, as if a garden is waking in the middle of the night, opening its flowers not to sunlight, but to the warm glow of the dreaming mind. You do not enter this garden all at once. You drift into it. You breathe into it. The way a seed opens into a leaf, the way a leaf uncurls into the cool, moonlit air. This is the beginning of the dreaming world, the brain, now freed from the sharp edges of waking thought, begins to weave its own landscape. The senses go quiet, the body lies still, and the mind becomes both gardener and garden, tending, planting, shaping, and wandering through its own soft creation. Dreams emerge in fragments. First, a color with no object, a sound with no source, a movement with no body. Then the fragments gather slowly, the way dew gathers on morning grass. Science tells us that during REM sleep, your brain becomes strangely active as it is when you are awake, sometimes even more. But the world it builds is internal, private, woven from memory, feeling, imagination, threads that drift together like vines finding one another in the dark. You can imagine REM sleep as a night garden blooming behind closed lids. Here, pathways glow softly. Here, hidden emotions rise like flowers. Here, thoughts that stayed quiet in the day stretch out and breathe. Dreams are not logical. They are botanical, branching, curling, growing in unpredictable directions. They follow the rules of feeling, not physics. They obey the shadows of memory, not the structure of the waking world. In this garden, you may walk through places that never existed, meet faces that shift like leaves in the wind, hear voices that come from nowhere and everywhere at once. The science behind these images is gentle during dreaming. The emotional centers of the brain glow bright, while the rational, controlling regions grow quiet. The gardener loosens its grip. The flowers take their own shape. You might drift into an imagined landscape, a field lit by starlight, a quiet street you've never walked, a house built from childhood echoes, a forest where the leaves hum, or perhaps the garden feels smaller, a single white blossom, a fragment of a melody, a sense of falling that feels soft, like descending into warm fog. Every dream even the smallest one, is a message of the brain caring for itself, sorting, healing, rebalancing, releasing dreams, weave emotion into memory, loosen tight knots in the mind, help the day settle, help the heart breathe. You may not remember them in the morning, but they work quietly, the way roots strengthen underground while you sleep. Imagine the garden now more clearly, tall grasses moving with no wind, petals glowing with an inner light, paths that curve gently out of sight. You do not need to walk these paths. You can simply rest in the center, feeling the soft pulse of the garden around you. The brain is nurturing itself, and you are being nurtured with it. There is a deep safety in this place, the kind of safety that comes not from certainty, but from surrender. Nothing in the garden demands anything of you. Nothing rushes. Nothing sharp intrudes. You are moving deeper now, as the flowers of dreaming open wider. They release soft fragrances, the scent of memories once forgotten, the scent of hopes not yet held, the scent of emotions that drift through you like waves moving through warm sand. The brain uses these symbols to resolve what words cannot, to soften what the heart still carries, to untangle what the day has gathered. You might imagine these symbols blooming around you, a door that won't open, a bird that speaks, a sky that changes color with each breath. None of these images need interpretation. They are feelings wearing shapes. Let them float. Let them dissolve. Let them rise again as new blossoms. Dreams often shift quickly, a scene melting into another, a face turning into a cloud, a room turning into water. This is how the garden moves, not in straight lines, but in waves. Your brain flows through these waves with purpose and peace. It processes emotion. It restores balance. It strengthens memory. It makes room for tomorrow. And while it works, you drift deeper into a softness that feels ancient and familiar, as if you are sinking into the warm soil of your own being. The night garden becomes darker now, yet more luminous. Colors deepen. Edges blur. The air grows warm and still. You may feel your breath sinking with this quiet, slower, deeper, as though every inhale draws in starlight and every exhale lets go of the day. In this rhythm, you find a rare kind of belonging. Dreams are not separate from you. They are your mind speaking in its native tongue, the language of images, of feelings, of movement without direction. Here, you do not need answers. You do not need understanding. You only need to rest as the garden blooms and fades and blooms again. And somewhere among the flowers and shadows, the brain whispers its simplest truth, that even in darkness there is growth. Even in stillness there is healing. Even in sleep there is a quiet tending of the deepest parts of you. The blossoms of this night garden open and close in their slow rhythm, their petals soft as breath. And with each gentle rise and fall, you drift a little further into the heart of the night. And perhaps, as the last petal settles into the dark, you feel the dream world lifting you like soft hands beneath water, inviting you deeper into the quiet that holds all worlds. And from the blooming hush of the night garden, the world grows even softer, as though the petals of every dream are folding inward again, closing gently, returning to rest. The colors fade, the shapes melt, the pathways that shimmered with inner light begin to dissolve into a deeper darkness, not an empty one, but a darkness rich with warmth and peace. You are drifting beneath the garden now, into the quiet valley where the mind releases its last traces of form. Here, thoughts slow until they are barely more than warmth. Emotions settle into a steady glow. The sense of I, once a small lantern, becomes a soft ember resting in a cradle of stillness. This is the approach to deep sleep, a place where the brain moves in long, slow waves, each wave a gentle sweep, clearing the mind, like tidewater smoothing sand at the edge of night. You do not need to understand it. You only need to feel the soft lowering of noise, the settling of your inner world, the weight of the blankets becoming a kind of shoreline where your awareness comes to rest. Deep sleep is a sanctuary the brain builds for itself, a quiet room within the mind where everything unnecessary goes still, where healing begins without sound or effort or conscious thought. You might imagine this quiet as a warm cavern beneath the dreaming garden. The walls glow faintly, as if lit from within by slow-moving pulse waves. The air is gentle, holding the warmth of night, the way cupped hands hold water in this place. The brain becomes organized in a different way. Its activity is no longer scattered, no longer blooming into dream flowers or wandering into memory. It becomes rhythmic, deep, steady, slow-wave sleep, a tide that rises and falls across the cortex with unhurried grace. Here, the brain repairs itself. Cells are restored. Connections are strengthened or released. The day's toxins, tiny metabolic traces, are washed away by the glymphatic system that becomes most active when the mind is deeply at rest. It is as though the brain opens quiet channels and lets clear water run through its pathways, sweeping away what is no longer needed. You might imagine these channels as thin streams of cool light flowing through dim corridors, cleansing, soothing, refreshing the inner landscape. Nothing is demanded of you here. Nothing is required. Deep sleep asks only that you settle, that you release your hold on the waking world, on the garden above, on the drifting thoughts that once floated like soft petals through your mind. Let them all fall away now. Like leaves sinking slowly through warm water, your breath becomes the only movement that matters. Slow, even, quiet. Each inhale draws the coolness of the cavern into you. Each exhale releases the last vibrations of the day. Your muscles soften. Your chest loosens. Your face relaxes. Your hands become weightless. Your body knows exactly what to do. As the last traces of dreaming fade, you sink into a deeper warmth, a warmth without shape, without story, without thought. Here, time stretches. Moments lengthen like shadows on a late afternoon field. There is no urgency, no expectation, only the slow movement of inner waves guiding you further inward. The brain's electrical rhythms become like distant thunder rolling across a vast plain, slow, deep, reassuring. These waves help your memory settle, your emotions balance, your mind recover. They allow your inner self to drift into the quiet beneath thought, where nothing has to be solved or shaped or named. You can imagine lying on warm sand beneath a starless sky, the world above hidden, the world below soft and steady, a place where breath feels like tidewater moving across your skin. Or you might imagine floating in a calm sea. your body supported completely, your mind suspended between darkness and comfort. This is the valley of deepest rest, a place beneath every dream, beneath every thought, beneath every flicker of memory. If you listen, not with your ears, but with whatever quiet sense remains, you may hear something distant, a slow, steady hum, the brain's final whisper as it retreats fully into restoration. This hum is not a sound. It is a feeling, a resonance in the bones, a warmth behind the ribs, a stillness spreading through your limbs. You are held by it. You are carried by it deeper still. The night has settled completely now. The lanterns are dark. The garden above rests. The forest of thoughts has grown silent. The season within you is pure winter, soft, stable, slow. This is the quiet space where the waking world dissolves, where even dreaming becomes a faint echo, where your own awareness lets go of the need to know, to feel, to see, to think. You drift here as naturally as a leaf on water. You drift here because the brain knows that rest is not the end of consciousness, but its sanctuary. In this calm valley, you are no longer separate from the quiet itself. You have become the quiet, a warmth, a breath, a slow-moving wave beneath everything. And as your breath dissolves into the soft dark around you, the final tenderness of this place settles in, the peaceful understanding that beneath every thought, beneath every dream, beneath every moment of your life, there has always been this quiet, waiting for you to return, a quiet that welcomes you now, holding you in its deep, gentle dark, as though the night itself is cradling your mind. And from the deep valley of quiet, something shifts, not a movement, not a sound, but a soft lifting, as though the darkness itself exhales and reveals a faint glow resting beneath it. You don't rise from the quiet rises with you, warming, expanding, turning slowly into something that feels like light brushing the inside of your awareness. Nothing is asked of you here. Nothing is taught or explained. This final space is simply a gentle return, a slow floating upward from the hush beneath all thought into a softer stillness that glows from within. The mind has settled, the waves have slowed, and the world around you has become a soft echo of where you've been. You may sense the room again, not clearly, not sharply, but as a haze of warmth and shadow. The air feels quiet. The night rests easily. Your breath moves like drifting silk through the hollow of your chest. A memory of the beginning returns, the dim glow on the wall, the soft hum of the air, the gentle presence of your own body settling into rest. But now those images feel different, as though they've been carried through warm currents of thought and returned in new shapes, lighter, softer, almost luminous. Where you began was the outer world. Where you rest now is the inner one, a place where the brain's work becomes quiet warmth, where its stories dissolve into gentle pulses of light. If you listen inwardly, you may sense a faint shimmer moving through the mind, like morning sunlight filtered through closed eyelids, touching everything with calm. This glow is not a thought. It is not a memory. It is the after silence of the brain as it drifts deeper into rest, a quiet radiance, a softness turned into light. You float in that softness. You breathe in that light. It gathers beneath your ribs like a small ember, settled, steady, warm, and the world outside becomes distant, not gone, not forgotten, just softened, as though wrapped in gentle cloth. Its edges rounded, its colors muted by night. The blankets around you hold your shape like a nest woven from dusk and breath. The mattress supports you with the steady patience of earth itself. Your limbs feel heavy in the sweetest way, as though gravity has become a tender hand guiding you into deeper stillness. You are safe in this softness. You belong here. Your mind is glowing quietly, your body resting deeply, your breath moving like a slow tide, and the story of the brain, all its networks, all its signals, all its lantern-lit pathways, all its drifting seasons and dream gardens, has brought you to this final quiet place where nothing needs to be held anymore. Thought loosens, awareness thins, warmth spreads through the hollows of your being. You may imagine a quiet horizon inside you, a place where darkness and faint starlight blend into one gentle color, soft and serene. The horizon doesn't pull you forward. It doesn't ask you to move. It simply waits, glowing faintly, inviting you to rest in its calm expanse. The light inside you mirrors it, a soft ember behind your eyes, a warm pulse in the center of your chest, a drifting glow at the edges of your thoughts, and the boundary between inner and outer fades until everything feels like one warm field of breath and quiet energy. The night deepens. Your breath deepens with it, slow, warm, steady. You are floating in a silence that has shape and color, a silence that holds you the way still water holds a fallen leaf. Every inhale draws soft light inward. Every exhale releases the last traces of the waking world. If there are any thoughts left, they drift like fireflies, losing their glow as they soften into the night. If there are any emotions left, they settle into gentle warmth, like embers resting in quiet ash dot. Everything becomes slow. Everything becomes warm. Everything becomes light. And as the night settles its final softness around you, the world inside and the world outside merge in a quiet embrace, your mind glowing gently like a small lantern in a vast, peaceful dark. You do not need to move toward sleep. Sleep is already moving toward you, rising from beneath thought, from the slow waves, from the tender work your brain has done to bring you here. It arrives not with weight, but with warmth, not with darkness, but with the softest kind of light, a light that asks nothing, a light that holds everything, a light that glows faintly behind your drifting breath. And now, in this final moment before sleep, you hover at the edge where softness becomes light and light becomes rest. The night breathes around you. Your body breathes within it. Everything is quiet. Everything is gentle. Everything is ready to fade. And as you drift into the glow waiting behind your dreams, the world softens with you, turning slowly, warmly into quiet light.